This is VSiN by the Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We begin the Wednesday edition. It is VSiN by the Books. Dave Ross here, Circus Sports, fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. The man in black is Jensen Lewis in Cleveland, Ohio. Jensen, why are you in that all black today? Is it a funeral for a baseball team we might be attending?
Well, I don't know yet, but preparations could be made. I decided to go a little Johnny Cash right here. But our man in black might be Wyatt Tomchak if these Braves don't get it turned around. Holy moly. I went to bed last night. It was 5-0. I'm like, okay, finally. You're not going to get swept on the road trip. I wake up, and a guy named Ohtani did it again. I mean, this guy's pretty good. Really good ball player. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him there, DR.
I heard of that guy, and saw that last night. It was 2-0 Braves after one. I go to my Circa app. I see I can get the Dodgers at plus money. So I said, hey, Braves still haven't won. Dodgers still haven't lost. You know how this gets, Jensen, in this clubhouse. Sometimes it gets a little tight. And I thought, well, if the Braves don't roll them early, this is probably going to be a Dodger comeback. So we played a little Dodgers plus $1.40. And then it's 5-0. I go, oh, here comes that rolling. They're going to get that one big roll, and I'm going to be on the wrong side. I went to bed at 5-2 after the Tommy Edman home run, and then you wake up, it's like Christmas Day, and you check the box, and you see 2 in the 8th, Ohtani in the 9th. Dodgers win at 6-5, and now you get to 0-7 for the Braves. And the Dodgers still, of course, have not lost. The Padres still have not lost. So we got these great streaks to start off the season out in the NL West. But it's happened before, but it's rare that this happens, where you get to 0-7. The Mets were 0-5 last year and made the postseason. And they made it on the last day, in game number 161 of 162 on that doubleheader in the ATL. So, Jensen, I know we don't want to, trends are your friend, and you need to know the history of it. But 0-7 is still 0-7. So when you see it as scarce as it happens, which I believe is the Mariners way back in the 90s, the last team to do it, I don't want to put a fork in them here in the first week of April. But you can lose a division in April, but you can't win it.
Yeah, and I think the prevailing sentiment here would be let's get a couple of weeks under our belt here, and they played the two teams that haven't lost yet. All right, so if you want to hang your hat on something, Braves fans, you've played two teams that have yet to lose a baseball game in the 2025 regular season. They both, the Padres and Dodgers, have looked like gangbusters. And to be fair, I think the Braves would love to get healthy here quite quickly, and it looks like it could be that way with some reinforcements on the way. Dave, Spencer Strider ahead of schedule for the rehab. Ronald Acuna Jr., the positive reports on him. So Sean Murphy already rehabbing down in the minor leagues. And so to get that full complement back would be great. The one injury that stinks too for them is Reynaldo Lopez going down over this road trip. And a guy that was so critical to their rotation success from day one last year. Remember, Dave, he was ticketed for the bullpen until the Strider injury, and then he was forced back into that rotation. And goodness, I mean, he was as critical to their success as Chris Sale, many could argue. I think the Braves are one of those veteran teams, though, that will, okay, you've taken a couple of huge punches. You're on the mat. Now let's find out. Now, from a betting perspective, you got to love where the futures board looks here in the National League East. If you're a Philly backer, if you're a Met backer, because you've got some cushion, but you got to take care of business too. And this is the beauty of the marathon, Dave. We'll see kind of that, the peak and valley, just like any stock here, is that you're going to have your great days. You're going to have days where you give it back. And so both the Phillies and the Mets really got to take advantage of where the Braves have this tough start.
It's interesting because I go to DraftKings and I look at the futures numbers right now in the NL East, and you think with this 0-7 tragic start to the season for the Braves, and the Mets with a great comeback win last night down there in Florida with Pete Alonso, Polar Bear with a 3-run jack to tie it up at 4. Mets ultimately get that win. You go, whoa, I wonder what the Braves have drifted to here in the odds market. They're still the second betting choice in the East. The Phillies right now are plus $1.30. You can still get the Metropolitans at plus 230. And the Braves are plus $1.80. The winless Braves have only dropped to plus $1.80. So to your point, reinforcements are coming. Don't panic yet, Atlanta. But I will say as a Met backer, it's kind of fun.
You're loving life.
Oh,
you are loving life.
Here. So the Mets,
I mean, hey, they needed a little miracle themselves to kind of get out of it too yesterday. As you can see that final score, 6-5, they get it done in extra innings. But you're right, Dave. This is the beauty of these first couple of weeks of the season. Always be mindful of where that market is ever changing.
Absolutely. So we'll keep abreast of those changing numbers. By the way, light slate today, Major League Baseball, only 5 games in the docket. We'll get to all those games as the show goes on. But we did have getting closer and closer to history in hockey. We talked about it yesterday with Jonathan Davis. And when maybe could Ovechkin break the great one, Wayne Gretzky's record? Well, the Caps lost last night 5-1. But that one, Alexander Ovechkin gets that goal, 892 now. So 3 away from the record. Again, it's amazing to see this happening. Again, if you're a DC person like I am, you know how crazy this city is for Ovechkin and how much they cannot wait to see this happen. So it does come in a loss, but you get to 892. Jensen, we talked about those odds markets yesterday. What team is he going to do it against? Man, oh man, it feels like every game Ovechkin does not want to wait till next year. It does feel like it's going to happen this year. He had to lay almost 285, I believe, before that goal last night, that he'd get it done in this season.
All right, so that would mean tomorrow at home against Chicago, the next opportunity, and then on the road against the Islanders Sunday. So you're starting to get into, that echelon there. I know we had looked at Columbus as the back-to-back, but boy, oh boy, if you get Carolina there on that Thursday, that'd be quite interesting to see, where he is coming into that contest. So I think you had talked about having the double out there, not only to have last night's performance, but also just that doorstep before you get the Blue Jackets in back-to-back contests.
It's amazing. It's fascinating to watch, and we're going to see history in the NHL eventually. And again, we've talked about it a lot. Doesn't take away from the greatness of the great one, of Wayne Gretzky. And I don't think Ovechkin is going to be the guy. He might be the greatest goal scorer of all time. That's coming very, very soon. But again, you take away all those goals from the great one, Wayne Gretzky, and he's still the all-time points leader in the history of the NHL. I mean, I don't even know how you wrap your head around that stat, right? I mean, we talk about stats in baseball and other sports. That stat might be one of the greatest of all time.
Well, not only that, but I think you mentioned baseball and Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak. I don't know if anyone will ever come close to that. And that is like base camp compared to Everest, which is Cal Ripken's consecutive games played streak. No one's ever going to get there. Ever, ever, ever. That record will stand the test of time.
Yeah, it is absolutely amazing to watch, and I cannot wait to see it happen. When will it happen? That's going to be another story. Walking today, we're going to talk more about the Final Four, obviously, as we get closer and closer to Saturday. And to that end, we have another great show lined up here today. We're going to talk some NBA with Sean Little. He's going to come up here in this hour. Mike Palm's going to be in studio in hour number 2, so get ready for those palms pressing 3. I know you're ready for that, Jensen. Lou Fittipaldi is going to join us to break down the UFC. Sneaky good fight card, because, of course, next week is UFC 314, but sometimes you can get some really good value in the quote-unquote smaller cards, so we'll catch up with Lou there. And then, of course, we're going to the King of Connecticut. Will Hill is going to join us. I cannot wait to get his thoughts on the Final Four and beyond. But the numbers really have not changed here. The cursory look as we start the program today. It's still 5 for Houston, 2.5 here still for Florida over Auburn. Houston getting 5 against the Dukies, of course. Again, on that Houston and Duke game, would you look at it and say, again, if I want to back Houston, wait? And again, I wondered if 5 might be that settling point. Maybe we're starting to settle right there. You're not getting those. You are getting 5.5 here at DraftKings, 5 behind me here at Circa, but I don't know that we're ever going to get to 6.
Yeah, and I would agree. And just kind of knowing that if you are maybe a Duke backer and you don't like the multiple possession number. We gave out that stat yesterday, courtesy of John Ewing, that we've had 9 previous teams that have played a Final Four game in their home state and have won. And when you look at where those groups are, obviously with Houston basically playing in their own backyard, that team is going to come out and have absolute adrenaline, a sense of urgency. They're going to be as locked down as possible on Cooper Flagg to try and force the issue to the supporting cast. So if you feel that Houston is the side, but you think that Duke gets the win, that might be a great live betting opportunity right there, just to get a more shallow number on the Blue Devils. If Houston runs out to a 10-4 lead, maybe it's a money line play for you. Maybe it's a Duke minus a 1.5, something like that. But the only other number, and we actually had it happen yesterday on our show, that total in the Florida and Auburn game come down a point and a half, depending on where you are, down to 159.5. So anxious to see as we get some of the bigger groups coming in tomorrow and Saturday morning to see if any of these numbers budge as well.
Also, one NBA score that kind of caught my attention last night. I was thinking, man, the Knicks might be the play against the Cavaliers. You're getting 10.5. It's right there. And then you wake up, you look up, and you go, oh, my goodness, 124-105. Not only do the Cavaliers come back, they roll the Knicks and easily cover that number. Jensen, if there was any concerns about the Cavs maybe hitting the iceberg there with the Titanic, I think they just put that ship right back into clear waters.
I'm glad you brought up kind of the iceberg Titanic part of this, because I don't know if you know, but they've tried to trademark Cavalanche. And so for the people that are not initiated here, here's how you bet the Cavaliers. You don't do anything before the game. You wait till they fall behind. You get a plus money price. The Cavalanche ensues. They win going away. It has been unbelievable how it's happened this year, especially at home. And so, another rocking chair winner for Kenny Atkinson's crew there at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
Is Cavalanche, is that a verb? Are we using it properly? Then the Cavalanche happens?
It might be a proper noun at this point.
Proper noun. I was never good. That was like English. I hope my Aunt Sandy is not listening, because she was a school teacher. She'll get very mad at me. But the Cavalanche, I like that. The Cavalanche happened last night. If you're on the side of the Knicks, oh boy. Started off well, and it did not end well, that's for sure. Again, we'll talk more hoops with Sean Little later on in this hour. But when we come back, let's dive deeper into that Final Four. As we mentioned, some of those numbers starting to feel like maybe they're settling where they are. We'll get back to that Final Four talk next here on VSiN by the Books.
VSiN by the Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN by the Books, on this Wednesday edition of Final Four set for San Antonio. And again, we talked a little bit about it to begin the program here. Numbers pretty, I don't want to say stagnant, but they have not moved a whole lot in the last 24 hours since we saw that movement on the under in that Florida and Auburn game down to 159.5. I am seeing a slight downtick on the total as well in that Duke and Houston game, depending on, again, where you shop at DraftKings. Down a little bit here to 135.5. That was at 136, as high as 136.5 and 137s earlier in the week. Now, that doesn't surprise me, Jensen, because we've talked a lot about it this week leading up to it, that kind of two-way handicap, that if you lean slightly to the Cougs, which is kind of where I'm leaning, no plays in pocket yet, I might look to that under at 135.5. And if you like the Dukies, which it feels like that's where, when you look at the betting splits, the majority of the people want to put their money is on Duke, you might look to the over 135.5. And again, I'm assuming if you're John Shire, you want to speed up Kelvin Sampson in his groups. And again, think, if I'm the better team, or at least I have the better offense, then I want to speed you up and get more possessions. Do you see it playing out the same way?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And also, we are also intrigued about where the officiating is going. How will this game be called? And I think more so in the fact that will Cooper Flag be treated a bit differently, because this defense from Houston is the best that they'll have faced. What is the physicality that will be allowed in that second game? Maybe we get a window into that. Dave, in game one, because it is two SEC teams, and we know the SEC has had the most fouls called in their regular season, and where their physicality is throughout then and into this tournament to this point. So I think that's also something to watch for the handicap. You and I thought about in that first game, if you wanted to look elsewhere from the full game, is the Florida Auburn first half under, and just getting used to the pressure, getting used to the sight lines, and then that actual rush of adrenaline for game tempo, the first 5 to 10 minutes. Could it be a little tough sledding here from being able to knock down some shots from the field. And I think it's a great way to look at it. If you do feel that there is a quote unquote feeling out period for both those clubs, the first half under might be a way to go as well.
I like that. I like that play. I like that handicap. Now, again, I think they'll get pace. I think Florida and Auburn are going to give you the pace that you expect. I don't know that those shots are going to drop right away. Like that first 5 minutes, if you're on that first half under, hold your breath because you know they're going to come out with a frenetic pace, right? I think they'll do that. But once you start missing a couple of those shots and a couple of possessions in that spacious, football type feel that you're going to be shooting into, that's maybe when it slows down. So you might have to hold your breath early, but I love that angle, Jensen, of looking to the first half under in that Florida and Auburn game there. And again, maybe it's almost counter handicaps in a way because I do think eventually you could get more points in that Auburn-Florida game, so maybe look to a second half over. Conversely, in that second game, I think they might get the lather going a little bit in that first half and come out and get more points than we expect, and then it slows down. So it's the feel of games, the way they go. If that Duke and Houston game stays tighter as those possessions that really become at a premium in the second half, I could see that's where that under might come and play at 136.5. For the sides, I haven't got there on either one yet. I still feel like it feels too short at 2.5. Again, this is somebody that's got an Auburn ticket, and I know you're in really good position here, Jensen, for all four squads. But I selfishly like to see Auburn win this game. But, this is why we do what we do. I think your head says 2.5 feels a little bit too short, that if John A. Broom is not full John A. Broom, I don't know how they cover the number of 2.5 or ultimately win the game. Moneyline price on the Tigers is plus $1.30.
I think if you and I, again, throwing our futures out the window here, if you believe that there is a bunch of favoritism here from the public on Florida as 74% of the handle, 65% of the bets, Auburn, could there be some sharps already on Florida? Sure. But it feels tight enough, that, this could be one of those final possession games. I got to keep going back to Auburn was the number one team in the country for a long time. They're the number one overall seed, and we're getting points with them. And I go back to what JVT kind of talked with us about, not only this week, but also this past week of, hey, are we in that position where, Johni Broom's health percentage is really the line of demarcation. Like if he ends up being a decoy, Dave, I don't believe that Auburn has enough firepower to win that game. He's just so important to what they do, not only on the court, but a psyche standpoint. Remember, they're kids. All right. We're 18 to 21-year-olds. You do have an older team for Auburn, but still you're going to get more swept up by the emotions here and trying to deal with knowing, and only Auburn will know. We're not going to get any reports or anything hard evidence wise that like, okay, he's really not 100%. No one's going to let that leak. So that's the other part I'm trying to factor in here is where is Auburn's psyche if they know headed into Saturday night, all right, our best guy isn't 100%. Now, the flip side of that is a lot of the pressure, Dave, could be on Florida. All the talk has been, this is a team that's been there, or that should have been here. They're the best all-around team outside of Duke. They got their scare, and now they should be able to take care of business. Well, there's a reason why it's 2.5. And so, I'm not mad at you if you're looking to the Auburn side and say, I'll take my chances. Give me an extra possession. If you want it. Does that number get to 3? Do we have enough public money that comes in, or maybe some sharps as well? By the time you and I look at this line Saturday afternoon, is this to 3 or is this as high as we're going to go?
I think it's going to get to 3. I'll be surprised if it doesn't get to 3. But what it will tell me if it doesn't get to 3, that the sharps are looking at Auburn. And this somehow came down to 2,
yeah,
I'd be like, whoa, What am I missing? Right? Yeah. What am I misreading? You nailed it though on the transparency. And again, we talk about in the Lewis Ross administration, we're all about transparency. Tigers are going to give you nothing. The SIDs, Bruce Pearl, John A. Broom, they're going to give you nothing this week. And it's been quiet as mice so far, right? We haven't heard a thing. And we're sitting here on a Wednesday going, how's John A. Broom? How, by the way, what about it's not just the arm that wasn't, you could see it. He wasn't moving the right arm, right? We also heard what was an ankle. We got knees. We got like all kinds of body parts that we're not even talking about because we're all focused on the elbow. So it was multiple things that Broom seems to be dealing with. But again, I get back to Mike Shanahan back in my Washington, D.C. days. I'm not going to tell you guys the truth. I'm going to tell you what you want to know, what I want you to know. And I think that's going to be the MO for Auburn. It doesn't help us as bettors. It doesn't help our community go, well, I need to know, is John A. Broom healthy? And if he's not, which we know he's not, what's the scale? Is he 70%? Is he 80%? Is he 50%? Because I couldn't bet on an Auburn Tiger team on Broom at 50, 60, 70, even 80. Correct. Because they lost with 100% John A. Broom. And they got whooped at home by this Florida Gator team. So, Jensen, he can't be 100%, right? He can't.
I've been in enough locker rooms where you do whatever you have to do. You and I are old enough to remember the old Kurt Schilling game, bloody sock, in which surgery was performed, and he went out and he threw perhaps the postseason game of his life in the Lions' Den there at Yankee Stadium. I have no doubt that whatever ails Johni Broome, he will feel like a bionic man with whatever they got to give him to be as close to 100%, if not there, by the time they tip that first game at 6:09 p.m. Eastern.
It's going to be Patrick Mahomes out of the tent. I'm cured. Whatever it is, he always pops out of the tent. He's just fine. On the other side, for this Duke and Houston game, no issues injury-wise, obviously, for the Cougs coming in. But I do feel like we've all forgotten that Cooper Flagg had to miss the ACC semis in the final. It was just a couple weeks ago. And now, because he's looked the part, we don't have any injury concerns anymore with Cooper Flagg, right? That's obviously not affecting the numbers.
I know, and again, I still lean more towards that under as where that primary play could be. And hey, this is Kelvin Sampson's best shot. They're in their own backyard. For whatever reason, it's sticking with me, Dave. We have yet to see Duke struggle. We have yet to see them really not lay an egg, but be hit in the mouth and see what they do after that. The old Mike Tyson line, you got to plan until you get hit in the mouth. Okay, if I'm Houston, land that haymaker early and see do they wobble? Do they come back? Do they stand up? Do they bow their neck? So I wouldn't mind if people want to go Houston on the money line too, just knowing, history has repeated itself a few times already. Can it happen yet again for the Cougs with a unique opportunity in their best iteration yet?
One of the greatest quotes of all time. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. Then what are you going to do? Duke hasn't been punched in the face yet. Edge Boost is going to help you out. It's a first-ever bank account built just for bettors. Ensures all your gambling transactions are approved instantly. No usage fees, no minimums. Going to earn cashback rewards, 100% approval for all your betting deposits. Sign up today, edgeboost.bet. Use the promo code BOOK. Deposit $25. Edge Boost is going to match that deposit right then and there. That's edgeboost.bet. Use the promo code BOOK. The name of the show.
Tuned in to VSiN by the Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN by the Books, on this Wednesday. And in case you're just waking up, you're listening channel 158 on your Sirius XM. Appreciate you listening. Hopefully you're watching the VSiN Watch app, VSiN.com. If you slept and you got to get some sleep, you might have missed some things. So, Jensen, without further ado, are you ready for our hard news? Highlights and headlines, baby. We got them for you. And the long national nightmare in Boston, it's over, Jensen. Rafael Devers gets a couple knocks. Started off the year 0 for 21, but the O is gone. You kind of felt like this was coming, right?
Well, again, when you look at where things were piling up, it could have been even worse had he continued on the strikeout path too. But 0 for 21, and more so just the way that it transpired. So great to see him get out of that, and also Hey, you didn't need too much with where Garrett Crochet was yesterday. Just a phenomenal all-around performance. But the national nightmare is over. Boston Red Sox. Hey, the Sox fans, he's going to be all right. He's going to be all right. You know, you go to the bar, you watch the Sox, and they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. He's going to be a good team. They're going to be fine.
Because this is our first time doing it, we've actually jazzed it up if you're watching and or listening. So without further ado, we're going to have a little accoutrement, if you will, to the highlights and headlines.
Help your bottom line with today's highlights and headlines.
See, now how much
now
better?
It feels newsy.
It's the news. You got to have that news music with it. And now it feels like now you can believe it that Rafael Devers.
From Las Vegas, Dave Ross reporting.
Now it feels it's real that Devers is off the schneid. But again, you expected this, right? Like he's too good a hitter to go through what he's gone through. Do you think it was mental, or sometimes, man, you just Frankie Lindor got off to a really slow start to the season last year and this year. Is it just one of those things of early April for guys like Devers?
Everybody goes through a slump at some point in the season, Dave, and it's hard to predict when those usually occur. You hope that it's in the middle of the year where, okay, we've got some sample size, we got some things to draw back on and look at in that actual calendar year. It always hurts, though, when you start this way. And the same way for a relief pitcher, too. So we would always joke, if you give up 3 runs, it takes 3 weeks, to get it back down to a normal side, because you just don't have the innings and appearances that you would as a starter. You give it 3 spot as a starter. Oh, don't worry. Next start, I'll be fine. And any player who says they don't look at the scoreboard is lying. You all look at the scoreboard. We all see what the numbers are. And so, of course, he saw it up there. But I think also it's the physical nature of where he was at the end of camp. There was a lot of smoke around. Is he in shape? That's a big reason why he was going to be the full-time DH. We know the defensive issues had preceded him the last couple of seasons. That's why you put Bregman over there as a Gold Glover. But, hey, now you take the collective deep breath. We're good. We're on the board. Now we start putting some games and some series together.
Let's stay right now there in Beantown. And we talked about it yesterday with Jackson Merrill getting that big-time extension. And we saw it in our group text with Brandon Valesky, our producer. Like, the trends start to happen, and they don't stop, right? Everyone went, oh, wait, Jackson Merrill, you're going to extend him? We'll do the same thing here with Christian Campbell. So he gets extended in Beantown. And, Jensen, this is going to continue, right? This is going to be what one team does it. Hey, my young star, let's lock up my young star. And they've done it now in Boston with Campbell.
This is pretty remarkable, too, because of how quickly, as you mentioned, that he's got a week in the big leagues. And our old friend, great friend of the program, Evan Longoria, if you remember, just had a week of service time and then signed that massive extension with the Tampa Bay Rays. It ended up being one of the most fruitful and most impactful contract extensions in franchise history. Will that be the same here? Boy, you love to think so. Age 22 for Christian Campbell. 8 years, and this could be incredibly affordable. If you think back to Ronald Acuna Jr., when the Braves signed him to a 7-year, $100 million contract extension, that ended up being as affordable as it gets, considering that he won an MVP. And I know the injuries have happened the last couple of seasons, but so much more affordable than if you would have waited. So now you get club options at the end of this for $19 million in 2033 and $21 million in 2034. The kid's 22, so he's going to have another crack at the apple here in his age 29 season, age 30 season. So right in his prime, he'll be able to hit free agency again. But this on the heels now of Garrett Crochet signing the 6-year, $170 million extension. So just for next year, Dave, when you're thinking about actionable statistics here, we haven't even had Marcelo Mayer and Roman Anthony come up yet. Bregman, Devers, Crochet, Trevor Story, now Christian Campbell, Jarren Duran, who's going to be, I think, on a club option as well. Brian Bayo, who signed his extension. Cedane Rafaela signed his big extension at the beginning of last year. You got a lot of guys in tow, so that core of the Red Sox going to be intact here for years to come.
As you mentioned, 8 years, $60 million for the young Christian Campbell. You watch him play, and the talent oozes from the kid. There's no doubt about that. By the way, Boston right now, it's early, obviously, 2-4 to begin the year. They are in last place right now in the AL East, minus $1.25 to make the playoffs. And you go, well, this feels like they're loaded for bear this year. And you mentioned Crochet. He was dominant yesterday on the bump in Charm City. Is that an actionable play for you?
Yeah.
Because it does feel like the division, though, if I don't know if Toronto and Tampa Bay, if these teams have staying power here, but you like that price tag at $1.25?
Yeah, just remember, too, as I've preached, overreaction month here in April, and I usually don't make a full assessment, or at least that first full assessment of a team until we get right around the middle of May. You want about 40-plus games underneath your belt, because that kind of gives you an idea of what you're really good at, what you have as far as weaknesses, and where you can try and plug some holes. So, Toronto taking advantage of a young Washington national team north of the border. They did that. Tampa Bay, also some really bad offensive teams there with Colorado and Pittsburgh. So, yeah, let's see where these clubs are after a couple of homestands, couple of road trips, and then but yeah, I think Boston's still, what'd you say, minus $1.25?
Yep.
Very actionable right now if you want to get that in pocket.
Let's stay with the same theme, because the D-backs saw what San Diego did. They saw what Boston did, and they said, all right, Ketel Marte, you're not going anywhere either. So $116.5 million extension for the D-backs here currently right now, off to a good start as well, 4-2. And he's going to be extended there in the desert, the other desert, not the one I'm in, until 2031 here. And their number right now to make the postseason is $1.35. What do you make of Marte and this type of money that he's getting?
Yeah, and again, remember, finished top 3 in MVP voting last year, arguably the best all-around second baseman in the league as we speak. And Ketel Marte is such a huge part of what Arizona does, and at the top of that order to go along with Corbin Carroll. So now you have your leadoff man and your second baseman, and those guys intertwine there in the top 2 spots in the lineup. They're there now for multiple years. Corbin Carroll, of course, signing his long-term extension last season at the beginning of the year. So extension season alive and well, and great to see that you got a club in the Diamondbacks. And I believe Ariel Epstein and I both gave out the Diamondbacks a few weeks before opening day. Mine, I think, was a minus $1.15 for the D-backs to make the postseason. And so, yeah, still minus $1.35, especially the way that division started with the Dodgers and the Padres not losing. I mean, very conceivable you could have 3 teams from the West in that postseason picture.
It's still pretty amazing when you look at what's happening so far in the NL West, that you have 2 undefeated teams here. That race to first to 10, and the Dodgers are 8-0, and you go, man, I got this thing wrapped up. You look in the rear view, it's San Diego is 7-0. It's just a number of games that they haven't played. Arizona, by the way, 4-2, and San Francisco 5-1. So, Jensen, I think we all looked at the NL East. I know I did at the beginning of the year and went, well, it's going to be the big 3 there. Right now, the big 3 involves the Marlins, because they're in second place at 4-3, and the Braves at 0-7. How crazy is this start for the West that you've got 8-0, 7-0, 5-1, and the D-backs on the struggle bus at just 4-2?
Yeah, I think the run differentials are what I'm looking at early on, and to have the Padres, we knew that the star power was there. They just needed to put it together. They have. Let's see what happens when they go on the road. Okay, they're going to go into the friendly confines beginning tomorrow afternoon. How about that home opener? We're going to get into what happened in Sacramento the last 3 days, and if you followed us, we have given you basically free money, free actionable totals, and you haven't had to sweat it past the 5th inning. Let's see what that total is tomorrow. The afternoon home opener between the Cubs offense, who has scored 60 runs in 9 games. The Padre offense, which has scored 36 runs in 7 games. But it's been their pitching that has been phenomenal, only giving up 11 runs total in those 7 contests. So they've done it at both ends. And you mentioned the D-backs, 38 runs thus far. Eugenio Suarez has been unbelievably hot in the home run department to start for them. They get it done against the Yankees again last night. So you're right. West is the best thus far in the National League.
It's amazing how good that division could be. And again, remember that for playoff spots, if you're betting the futures markets as which teams might get a wild card spot, like those Braves at 0-7, like, are they really going to be able to, if they can't win the division, can they be viable for a wild card spot? In the Central, as you mentioned, the Cardinals off to a good start, 4-2. Cubs have already flipped that around at 5-4 after that rough start to begin the year. Betting splits right now. Jensen, you do a great job of breaking those down each and every show. VSiN.com/subscribe. Right now, you can get those exclusive betting splits until August 1st for just $59. So it's a summer special that we have going right now here at VSiN. Although out in Las Vegas, it still feels like, I don't want to say winter, but it's a little bit chilly. But it is a summer special right now. VSiN.com/subscribe. Get those betting splits all the way through August 1st for just $59.
to VSiN by the Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN by the Books. Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis here on a Wednesday edition. A real pleasure to talk some NBA hoops with Sean Little. You can follow him on X, a great handle. Chicago Flow joins us now here on the Progressive Guest Line, does a great job in the Action Network. Sean, great to talk hoops with you again, my friend. We were talking during the break a little bit about, we'll get into some of these specific games here in a second, about defensive effort out there, right? It's sometimes there's going to be a lack of defensive effort that we see in the NBA. Right? Do you look at teams that you know you're going to get some of that if I'm laying points, and I kind of go right to the Cleveland Cavaliers, that if I know that it's in their DNA, that they're going to play defense at some point in the game, is that easier to lay numbers with teams like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's always easier to lay numbers when you know you can count on either the entire squad or a specific unit. For example, the Cavs don't play the best defense, but it's serviceable enough. It's top 10 in the NBA, but the offense is just off the chain. It's number one in the NBA offensive rating, number one true shooting. They only turn it over a little bit. They're third in turnovers when it comes to turnover percentage. So that offense is so up and down and shoots it so well that it turns into and helps them on the defensive end. And then I think a big theme, fellas, this NBA playoffs is going to be size and depth. You're going to need front court size and depth, and the Cavs have both of those things.
Yeah, Sean, those of us here in Northeast Ohio, very excited. I was telling Dave, a very actionable play is what we now call the Cavalanche up here is you don't bet the Cavs on the money line before the game. You wait till they fall behind and get the plus money price, which they were at half. And then you watch the Cavalanche ensue, and they win going away, in which they did against the Knicks last night. Hey, let's stay in the East there, because you mentioned the Celtics. I tell you what, the Heat find ways to just rise up and be able to pull performances like they did last night. They destroy the Celtics. But Dave and I talked a little bit last week and interested your thoughts on it. 30,000-foot view, I think we feel it's the Cavs and the Celtics. Is there anyone in the East that you identify maybe in that second round that could potentially trip up either of these top two squads?
No, if I'm being completely honest, and I work for MSG and the Knicks, and I'm very close to that squad. I follow them on a day-to-day basis. I'm either doing the pregame show, or I'm in the arena watching them, or I'm at home watching them when they're on the road. There is nobody that can compete with those two teams in the East, and the Celtics and the Cavs. To give it a little context for the Knicks, though, the scheduling has been a little tough, especially against the Cavaliers. They played 3 times. The first game was the third game of the year. Karl-Anthony Towns just getting acclimated. Jalen Brunson trying to figure out how he wants to run the show. Then the second game was coming off of a back-to-back against the Bulls where they went to overtime. That's a tough scheduling spot. Then they were looking ahead. They had Boston the next two nights later. Then this third game was on another back-to-back for the Knicks. So it was just without Jalen Brunson. So a tough scheduling spot, but either way, this is year one for that new New York Knicks team. They're going to have to fill out the roster and get some depth. If you look at all the best teams in the NBA, they're all pretty deep. And I'm talking about guys that can actually play. I'm talking about DeAndre Hunters. I'm talking about Peyton Pritchards. I'm talking about guys that impact off the bench, not just guys that are coming to give the starters rest. So, no, man, fellas, nobody's messing with the Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers, just like, in my opinion, nobody's messing with the Thunder coming out of the West.
OKC Invitational. We talk about it all the time here on the network with Jonathan Von Tobel. Sean, I got to ask you about those seeds because they get rolled last night, 124-103. Is that more of a, hey, we know we're the second seed, we're not catching Cleveland, they're the 1 seed, kind of mail in the last week, or do you think there's a bigger issue here?
No, because the Heat were rolling. The Celtics were rolling. They had won 9 straight and 14 of 15. They had kind of turned it on in March, in a month where a lot of teams turn it off. They were playing really well. I think they just caught Miami. They were on a 6-game road trip. They just went 6-0, which that was the first time doing that in team history. But overall, all year long, the Celtics at home have been poor. Fellas, they're 32-7 straight up on the road. And if you flip the number at home, they're 15-21 ATS. So they just haven't played very well at the crib all year long for whatever reason. But it was just good timing. Coming off a 6-game road trip, they had won 14-15. The Heat dropped 10 straight. then win 6 straight, and then they just caught the Celtics a little sleepy getting back at home. I always make a joke, fellas. You get back home off a long road trip, you got to walk the dog, you got to pick up the dry cleaning, you might have to sort out a few different girlfriends, maybe one, maybe a few, you never know. And next thing you know, you're in the middle of an NBA game and you're down 15 in the first half after you get your whole life sorted after getting off the road. So I think it was just a good spot to catch Boston. And last point here, I think overall, 70,000 feet view of the Heat, this six-game win streak doesn't do much for me. I think overall that situation is extremely stale with the Heat culture talk and Spoelstra. They're going to have to do something with the roster, or this team in the regular season is going on 3-4 years in a row. I know Jimmy Butler has dragged them in the playoffs, but they have been a very mediocre basketball team for quite a while now.
Yeah, Sean, very unique situation. Anxious to see where they eventually end up in what looks like a play-in tournament scenario. Two teams that are going to be nip and tuck here down the stretch for seeding purposes, and an all-important one tonight between the Warriors and the Lakers. Steph coming off. I was telling Dave, when I see the box score for baseball, I see some things that just jump out. 23-point attempts for Steph, and he makes 12 of them. We shouldn't be surprised anymore because he's going to shoot so well. He's the best shooter we've ever seen in the game. How do you handicap this matchup tonight? Because, again, only 2 games, if I remember correctly, separate the Lakers right now, or the 3 seed at the playoffs started today. Warriors, the 5 seed, 2 games separating them in the standings.
Yeah, this is the game of the night. Marquee matchup for sure. I'm looking at the Lakers here. I talked about it on Buckets Pod for Action Network last night. Should be out there wherever you get your pods. But we laid it out and just think it's a better spot for the Lakers coming off of a little bit of rest. They'll have the rest advantage over the Warriors coming off of that, you can call it tough Grizzlies game, which it was. It was up and down. And this new look Memphis team really makes you run. That extra energy exerted, I think, is just working in the favor of the Los Angeles Lakers. And if you're looking at props in the game, it is very clear the last 6 games since LeBron has come back off of that injury, he is very good with deferring to LeBron James, especially to Luka Doncic, especially on usage. Since he's come back, his usage rate is about 25%. All year long, it's been about 29, and Luka's usage rate is right at that 31.5 number. I think for a long time, LeBron has been looking for a guy that could take the load off. Hey, I'm old. Let me relax. You guys do all the heavy lifting and then put out the Batman signal when it's time for, and maybe in crunch time or big games that are on TNT, kind of like this one, actually. And then in the playoffs, Russell Westbrook, you go out here when they went and got Russell, you run around and do all the hard work. Anthony Davis, that's kind of what LeBron wanted Anthony Davis to do. Just never really came to fruition in that sense. But Luka is the guy for that job. He'll handle the rock all game long if you want to. And now that's one of the things for props. I would look at LeBron unders throughout the rest of this year, and I would take a look at Luka overs depending on how inflated the number gets. Sean, Austin Reeves, of course, as well.
Yeah, you mentioned, Sean, the new look Memphis Grizzlies. You fire Taylor Jenkins here. That was kind of unprecedented this late in the season. And now you get this hot Miami Heat squad here, and you mentioned it. Was that just about Ja wants to run? Let's start pushing some things. Is that what the difference was there?
Yeah, the rumblings in the NBA circles is the GM, and the GM for Memphis is a young guy, wasn't really interested in how Taylor Jenkins and his crew was running offense. And the new guy, Tomas Isolo, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, go hop on the interwebs and type in that name. He was the head coach for the Paris Euro Cup squad that won the league in Europe last year. And remember the Suns 7 seconds or less?
Oh, yeah.
This is essentially 5 seconds or less. Get it off the rim and purely sprint. Last 3 games since he's come in, the pace is like 108.5.
Whoa.
It is absolutely blistering. Might not be that high. I think 2 of the 3 games it was up there. But as you saw in that Golden State game, 125. They played the same Lakers. They scored 125 plus. So they're going to try to wear you out. And that's actually why I like them tonight, -4.5 versus the Miami Heat. I don't think Miami's going to be able to keep up offensively. And it's a bad spot for Miami. They've now won 6 straight. They're feeling a little good. And the new look Memphis Grizzlies are going to be clamoring for a win. John Morant still doing, some say, dumb things on the floor. Extracurricular, he's tweeting, ja this, ja that, emoticons and everything else. But I think that's all going to come into the spot play when we talk about max effort from Memphis and getting the dub. I think it's just too much running, too much up and down offense for Miami to keep up with. And Memphis has the bigs that can bother Bam a little bit.
Got to cut it there, Sean. Appreciate your time. We are back with more in a moment.